Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, episode 421 of Daily Global Insights. And joining me is my co-host 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙦𝙤. Something that has been happening in the Syria region that has not been touched upon by the MSM is what we are starting with. We have many other things. First, please like this video. 𝙒𝙬𝙤, what is happening in Syria? There was a conference. At the same time, there's a lot of bombing going on, sir.
Well, I think there's been a series of incidents. Good morning to everybody and namaskara. There's been a series of incidents in the last 24 to 36 hours. It all started with a missile attack or a drone attack near northern Syria, Al-Umar oil field. It took out one American contractor lost his life and five people got injured based on the data that thus far. And then what's happened is that Biden ordered retaliatory strikes against the so-called Iranian targets within Syria, believed to be from where there's a drone. It is alleged to be a drone. There's no proof as yet. A drone attack seems to have started. And what then happened is, as a follow-up to that, in the early hours of United States and probably around 11 o'clock Middle East time, 5 more rockets were fired by the rebels or by the Iranian proxies, and no casualties or no report as yet on that piece of information. So there's been a flurry of activity around this, and this is leading up to the incidents that preceded, which we didn't cover, which is around Israel targeted the Aleppo airport, some of the areas in Damascus, and also in the Latika region, where it is believed that there is tunnels, production capabilities, missile launchers of obviously Hezbollah and some of the Iranian proxies. So there's a series of attacks that were carried out by the Israelis as well, and then that followed the series of attacks that we were alluding to on Thursday and Friday. Remember, we covered the Aleppo airport attack in DGI about 10 days ago.
Yes, indeed, 𝙒𝙬𝙤. And viewers, there's something more happening on the banks. Deutsche Bank stock lost 20% of its value. And is this something that is similar to the Credit Suisse contagion? Let's ask 𝙒𝙬𝙤. 𝙒𝙬𝙤, Deutsche Bank.
Well, I think the Deutsche Bank seems to follow. Everybody conveniently puts SVB as the contagion or the issue. As a case of Credit Suisse, we covered that there's been some fundamental issues on their business and loss of trust and deposits, particularly the consumer wealth. In the case of Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Bank has got what we call as credit default swap contracts. What is a credit default swap? A credit default swap is Deutsche Bank raises money in the market by issuing bonds, which is debt. So it holds those bonds as debt in the balance sheet and uses the capital for harnessing its activities. Now, in case of a default by Deutsche Bank, the debt holders need to be paid. It's an insurance contract. So they go to the market and pay insurance premium and say, okay, I think I've got sufficient collateral, but just in case there is a default, then you, the insurance company, will need to make good the money to the bondholders. So this is the credit default swap contract. The premium seems to have increased by about 20 to 25 basis points, 20 basis points in the last couple of days, fearing some problem in the balance sheet. So therefore, that actually pushed the price up. This is what resulted in whether this is only restricted to Credit Suisse or the problem is much broader within the European banking systems. So quite a few of the banking stocks, such as Commerce Bank, etc., seem to have been affected as a result of this condition. 𝙒𝙬𝙤. I've got thundering rain outside, so if you're hearing, that's the noise.
Yes. That this is a March time frame. Usually it doesn't rain at this time of the year, but Rains are always welcome. Siddharji, let's take a look at other things. But before that, just want to round out the market segment. Yesterday, the United States Fed raised by 25 basis points and the EU by 50 basis points. So that's where things stand in terms of interest rates. Now, let's take a look at what is happening in the United States of America. Who is Rob Walker? He took a 3 million kickback allegedly from the CCP. And who were the benefactors? His name is directly tied to the Biden, Sridharji.
Well, is one of the activists who goes back to the Clinton administration time. It seems that the House Appropriation and the Investigations Committee has determined that the money seems to have flown into his account and from his account into members of the Biden family. So they have got a record of these transactions. So now they want to interview him. So there is a link that points to the flow of money from a CCP-linked oil company through Rob Walker. Apparently, Rob Walker has connections with this particular company into the Biden family. So this is the first piece of concrete evidence that we are looking at, or at least the alleged evidence, which the House committee wants to call Rob Walker. Whether he will yield to the call or whether they will issue a subpoena, we don't know. But there's probably more to come. And what we are seeing is just the initial beginning of this, Sriji.
Thank you, sir. And this Tuesday, that is 3 days ago, that was the day Donald Trump was going to be arrested. But for that, you need to call a jury first, and you have to come up to some determination. There's a lot of process involved, let me put it that way. That jury has not been called, and it is now Friday. And Sridharji, is the Democratic Party, or more importantly, the Soros-appointed district attorney, I shouldn't say Soros-appointed, but Soros-supported district attorney of Manhattan, is he going to change his mind? What exactly is going on, sir? Some confusion there.
So one of the questions I want to just put to rest, I've seen, yes, Soros does fund, which is allowed in United States through advocacy groups to promote some of the people, and then what happens is they get elected. So therefore, this particular person is believed to be one of the Soros candidates. Now, two things have happened. There is probably pressure from the Democratic Party as well, but there's also pressure from the House to see whether any Fed funds were illegally used by the Manhattan District Attorney in the conduct of this inquiry. Besides that, there has also been a witness who has been called, and we don't know what the details of that. So what the Manhattan District Attorney is saying is that I don't think I had any intention to arrest Trump, but this is a kind of rhetoric that Trump has launched. And so therefore, we'll wait. We have to still wait and see what the jury holds out. But in the meanwhile, as you rightly said, Tuesday has disappeared. Friday is going to disappear. We have no idea whether the jury is going to meet in real time or whether they're going to meet in virtual mode to complete this indictment process. In the meanwhile, we got this delay in this so-called inevitable arrest of President Trump. I think they will do a political theater in indicting him, but it will eventually fall out, Sriji, and there may be this Manhattan District Attorney maybe become a casualty as a result of this.
Yes, indeed. And the takeaway from all this is, till date, no sitting president of the United States has been impeached, and no president, whether he was in power or not, has ever been jailed, as far as I know. Sridharji, so that record might continue. I think this is sort of blown up on their faces, in my opinion. You have to line up your ducks before you go for something as high a target as Trump, isn't it, sir?
It is. I think that forget Trump. He's an ex-president, and you follow the due process. You don't jump the gun. You don't want to be ahead of the game. You also look at the underlying issues from a political context as well as from a symbolic kind of a context. This particular case, which relates to the hush money, and Michael Cohen being the centerpiece of the recipient and the payout. This has been tried and it has been rejected, including an ex-federal election commissioner has stated that this doesn't, whatever has happened doesn't violate any kind of federal election laws. So this whole case hinges on violation of federal election laws in terms of the conduct of President Trump.
Well, for the first time, the United States has said that it has the capacity to take out Iran's nuclear installations. This is the first time I have heard it. I have read it. Sridharji, why is US suddenly taking this kind of a position against Iran?
There's obviously intelligence flowing through. That's one aspect. The second is that there has been growing intelligence which is coming from the Israeli side that Israel will do a preemptive action if it detects any semblance of nuclear activity from the Iranian side. We covered this again in DGI a few weeks ago, where Iran said, I don't care about UN and IAEA, we will do what is required. When IAEA started the inspection as well as the program to switch on these monitors. Remember, Israel and US also conducted joint drills off the Mediterranean just in case that it is warranted that they are capable of jointly taking out the Iranian nuclear, any options that they develop. Now, why what you call the defense secretary is making a statement? It's because there has been now a number of attacks emanating from either Iran or Syria, specifically around the US military-based targets in the region. So there is some apprehension whether they could be thinking of using, you can get this nuclear device or nuclear missile or nuclear capable missile from any of these surrogate countries, who are sympathetic to Iran. So this is the reason why the US Defense Department or the US Defense Secretary has stated, or in his briefing to the House, has indicated that US is prepared and capable of taking out any entertainment of the Iranians with a nuclear option.
Sridharji, now the United States defense officials are being asked this question: how much longer in Ukraine? How much more money is going to be spent, and to what objective? This question, I think the defense officials are finding it difficult to answer. And do you think that at some point of time, the House, which is a Republican majority, might say that enough is enough, we need to review the entire Ukraine plan, or is the House going to go along with the Biden administration?
The House is not going to go along with Biden administration. The House is saying, is there an end game? Based on the experiences that they have had with the exit in Afghanistan, they don't believe that there is an exit plan for Ukraine. That's number one. Number two, they have asked the question, what is the definition of victory? Is it a complete defeat of Russia, or what is, in your mind, Defense Department, the definition of victory in this war? I think both those questions they can answer. If that is the case, why are we pumping billions and billions of dollars, both what you call depleting our ammunition as well as depleting our precious resources, just when what we call as the debt ceiling bill is likely to come up before the House, when Biden is spending money like nobody's business and there's no money to spend? So this is the backdrop, and I don't believe they have got a clear answer from the Defense Department. There's also been allegations of the abuse and misuse of funds, though we will hear more about this in the days to come.
And the U.S. Navy on Thursday dismissed China claim. U.S. Navy on Thursday dismissed China claim that U.S. destroyer illegally entered South China Sea waters near Paracel Islands in South China Sea. China objects to U.S.-Philippines enhanced defense services agreement and expansion of footprint in Philippines. Anytime China objects, that means it is on the back foot. That is easy to parse. But Sridharji, this is a good thing that China is not being allowed to, basically rule South China Sea.
Well, what's happening here is that this is one of the probably, if I have to give a pitch, maybe Mr. Elmer will cover some of this, what happened in Russia. But what I hear is that Vladimir Putin seems to have given enough input to Xi Jinping, which is to say, do not allow yourself to be surrounded. Now, you can see that there is a number of defense agreements and defense footprint that U.S. is developing, notably around Korea, Japan, Taiwan, now into Philippines with enhanced defense agreement. Very soon you will see that they are also going to be in member states of ASEAN. So therefore, you don't allow yourself to be surrounded. Start making preemptive actions. That's one. The second is there has been Philippines and China contesting near Paracel Islands, which is not too far from 𝙒𝙗𝙦𝘀𝘀, which is also not too far from Spratly Islands, which is the contentious spot not too far from the area where Philippines has its defense forces. When Philippines tried to move supplies, again, we covered in DGI, you remember they came under attack from the Coast Guard. Coast Guard is effectively a naval ship. So what you're seeing is that China revving up its antics, claiming that US violated border, when probably I would be very surprised if they did.
Also, viewers might remember this, that China has actually authorized some of its fishing boats, like people just go to the ocean to fish, that they can act as if they are the Coastal Guard. I mean, this is just nonsense, which means they are arming them with guns and, what sort of stuff are they arming them with? If you want to be effective from a fishing boat, you got to have long-range guns. It's just what China has been trying to do is just nonsense. I don't know when this is going to stop, but it's pure madness. That's my 2 cents, sir. Let's take a look at Russia-Ukraine war. Mr. Zelensky says EU tells EU that quicker aid is needed to take on Russia, otherwise brace for a long war. Russian drones pose the biggest threat as Ukraine asks for more Stinger weapons. So can Stingers take out Russia drones, sir?
That's the only way they believe they can contain the drones that are coming into. They don't have a missile shield as yet. So they believe the quicker mechanism by which to take it out is the Stinger weapons. And they also believe that it is creating enough damage in the civilian areas. The drones are creating enough damage in the civilian areas. Even in the last 24 hours, they have had a drone attack right in Kiev.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, keep sending your questions. Ask SC is the hashtag. Always in DGI involving Sridharji. I'll always ask SC for his initials. So keep them coming. We'll take 5 questions tops. I have about 3 already. So 2 more questions and then we will stop that because we still have a fair amount of news to cover. We haven't even come to India yet. So in India news next, the ongoing second G20 framework working group meeting chaired by the chief economic advisors from India and United Kingdom. Focus will be on the macroeconomic impact of food and energy insecurity, climate change and energy transition pathway, said India's chief economic advisor V. Anantha Nageshwaran. India attends the second Indo-Pacific Economic Forum meet in Indonesia and attends 3 streams and skips the trade stream. All this is good, sir, G20, but a lot of questions here asking about what is going to happen to the future of Congress. We'll come to that in just 1 second. Let Sridharji answer this question. Go ahead, sir.
The important message that one can infer from here is the 2 important forums, 2 independent forums. One is Indo-Pacific Economic Forum that's taking place in Jakarta. This is the second forum. There were 4 pillars: trade, security, supply chains, climate change, etc. Okay, so India said, I'll attend all three, but I won't attend the trade because I have bilateral agreements. I don't want to become part of any kind of groupism. Even Biden persuaded, but they accepted India's position. You see the same consistent message going on in G20. So Modi ji, as under his leadership, it is very clear that what India wants to accomplish in global forums, which is namely trade, security, rules-based engagement, energy, as well as clean climate. We are all supportive. We'll work with you jointly, and we'll also be part of the supply chains. But as far as trade is concerned, it is very unique to us and something that we have very well established partnerships. We don't want to become a party to anybody else. India is scared that somehow Chinese, in a surrogate way, will make their way through one of their partners in one of these, by virtue of being in these groups. So therefore, India is steadfastly refusing, notwithstanding the fact there's a significant amount of imports coming through from China into India. So this is the consistent theme that India is laying out. That's the key message. One is a G20 and the other is IPEF.
Well, next, the news that you've all been waiting for. Rahul Gandhi has been disqualified from Lok Sabha. I mean, this is essentially a result of the judgment. And he certainly had many ways to take care of this. He did not. So it is basically what you sow is so you reap. At the same time, people are suddenly saying, how can you do this? How can you do that? It just tells you, Sridharji, this is what it is. The law and order has disintegrated so much over the last 15, 20 years in India that any politician, anything happens to them, they are not touchable, but they will keep on doing all illegal things themselves. So this is basically not something that is new. Many very noted people have been disqualified from Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha on some ground or the other. You have the recourse to go to the courts and you can find out and get justice there. More importantly, this was something that Rahul Gandhi allowed to fall through the cracks. It's not like, overnight they decided. It was a 4-year case. So people are surprised that a defamation case has been ruled on in 4 years' time. So what can I say? I mean, sometimes these things do go through quickly, especially if one person doesn't come on, show up and just keeps ignoring summons. What do you expect? The other question people are asking is, does this mean that Priyanka is going to be the face of Congress? I don't think so. If that was going to be the case, Rahul Gandhi would have quit after the first disastrous term as president in 2019 after the elections and let somebody else take the ownership. I don't think so. This family is messed up. We don't know why the party still clings on to the family. There's something called as the G23, which is supposed to be a separate body, but somehow they never seem to be able to say, okay, this is how Congress will go from here on and move the party forward. It has to rise above individuals. But they haven't done that, so we have to wait and see what happens. Beyond that, all I can tell you is that the circus that is India's politics continues to go, and I think it is good that some people have to be told that there are laws too. In fact, I also blame the Modi government. In the National Herald case, they had 12, 15 cases that they could have filed, and all these things are legitimate. They are cheating, criminal conspiracy to steal somebody else's shares. And they didn't do that, and that is basically their problem. So why is when they do that, people complain? These were much more black and white because these are all white collar crimes where people have signed. And what about the citizenship of Rahul Gandhi? He himself signed in the company house. I have published these signatured company's house documents of Rahul Gandhi saying that he is a British citizen. What more proof do you need? So anyway, so all I'm trying to say is this is just storm in a teacup. You can see that the country hasn't done anything. They all expected this, so that's how things go. Let's take a look at the BramHos missiles. Sridharji, BramHos missiles is getting a lot of attention from many countries now. And I think we talked about this in a few episodes ago. Give us the latest on it, sir.
The latest is now that, Philippines, we talked about BramHos missiles in Philippines, testing and learning and, trying to use that as a deterrence in case there is a spillover as a result of the China-Taiwan tensions. There's also been the China-Philippine tensions. There is now considerable interest around two segments of the world or two areas of the world. Middle East. We covered what is going on in Middle East, so there is interest from the Middle East, but most importantly, there is considerable interest from the ASEAN nations. This is the 10 nations that make up the ASEAN group. There's a lot of interest to acquire BrahMos missiles as a mechanism for deterrence by virtue of its well-established capabilities. What specific BrahMos missiles that they're looking at, we still don't have detailed information, but clearly that seems to be gaining traction and momentum. This also emphasizes why many in what we call as the Global South or Indo-Pacific, the smaller version of that, there is pivotal role for India in the days and years to come, both on a range of issues that we touched on where they are participating, but most importantly on the security matters.
Sridharji, in Asia news, North Korea is now testing undersea missiles. And this is the first, I think, that's the first time at least I have read about this. Is this again China testing through North Korea, or is it indigenous technology, sir?
It's an undersea drone which can take out submarines. So they're testing the undersea drones they believe they have done, besides firing all the ballistic missiles around with long range. I mean, this is not just North Korea. This has got Russia, Iran, China, all the three countries' hand. Remember I said that there are 4 pockets of war in the region where there is simultaneous simmering tensions. So North Korea is one of the actors in one of those regions, which is the intersection of South China Sea and East Asia Sea, or East China Sea, which is around the Taiwan Strait. And so North Korea is continuing every day to test its own way. We covered the Iran, the Middle East area. We have also covered the Russia, Ukraine. We haven't covered, but we have touched on the fourth, what you call as the vulnerable point or the melting point, which is the line of actual control between India and China. So North Korea is every day an actor which is probably doing the proxy for the Chinese and the Russians.
And Russia's support for Myanmar complicates matters there, as well as now Biden wants to get 7 billion aid to fund some of the Southeast Asian nations to defend themselves. So you can see slowly the theater moving from Ukraine and either moving or spreading to South Asia, South China Sea area also. This is one of the things that is of concern. Sridharji, I just want to, please wrap this up, and then I have a quick message for our viewers. Then we will say bye.
Indo-Pacific Islands, they have been the target. The Solomon Islands, you saw, that was highly contested. China has effectively supported a dictator who has anointed himself. And they also have a police force, which was followed by the French President Macron visited, Antony Blinken visited, and he said you would have a footprint which is larger than what they have because it's neglected. Australia is concerned, but it is not too far from Australia. It's almost looking, across. So you're now beginning to see United States saying, I got to get back into the Pacific Islands and see what we can do in the Pacific by way of aid and support. Otherwise, China is going to come in and provide both security and effectively occupy those places and creating a problem for the world. So they are putting, it's almost like whether the horse has left the stable and the doors are bolted and United States is coming in.
Thank you very much, Sridharji. And viewers, I wanted to tell you that if you want to know more about what was going to happen to Rahul Gandhi, you should have seen live with Delhi R. Rajagopalan. We aired at 8:05 a.m., 3 hours before the parliament started today, about what could happen. A lot of broad hints were given that there could be problems for Rahul Gandhi, and that's exactly what played out. So we are arguably taking the honors and saying that we were the ones who scooped this first. That's the reason why you watch PGurus. Today you've heard a lot of things on DGI. Just wait and see what happens in the next few days. including things about US politics and other regions. It's this is why we are really seeking your support. Please like, share, and support our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications, and also follow us on Twitter. Now, my handle is verified. Sridharji, I hope your handle will get verified soon too. So, PGurus1, 𝙒𝙤𝙤𝙦, and Sri Iyer 1. These are the three handles that you may want to follow, so that when we are not giving you news, at least as and when things happen, you will get the latest updates. Twitter is the best place to absorb political events and rapid developments in news. Thanks once again, Sridharji. We'll be back again next week. Thank you so much, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day or have a wonderful evening.